In this video, I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of living in Mobile, Alabama, the 2023 version. Now, I'm going to cover some things that I've never talked about before, but, well, it's time we let the secret out of the bag. So, let's go ahead and dive in. Hey, my name is Jeff Jones with Keller Williams right here in the beautiful city of Mobile, Alabama, where I've lived my entire life. Now, I created this channel to answer a lot of questions for people, well, like you who may be considering moving here, or, well, people who just have general questions about Mobile and Lower Alabama in general. So, I also created a video podcast and an audio podcast that you can check out on iTunes and Spotify. It's actually called Living in Mobile, Alabama, and I've got the link below, and you can check out several episodes, just a bunch of regular folks like you and me who are sharing their stories about living in Mobile. You definitely need to check that out. But also, check out the link below where you can get a free copy of the Mobile City Guide with all the details you could ever want to know about what it's like to live, work, and play in this beautiful place. Now don't worry, I will never send you spam. I'm the only one who's going to see that email address. I can promise you that. Now, I absolutely love getting phone calls, text messages, or emails from you all with questions about the moving process. So do not hesitate to reach out. If you've got questions, I can walk you through the process, and hopefully we will be able to take away all the stress involved in moving. So don't forget to like and subscribe because we're always dropping new videos about living in Mobile and Baldwin County. Now, we've got to start with the pros because I always like to start on a positive note. So the first pro, well, it's obviously got to be the weather. So many folks move here because of the weather, and we have very mild winters. And what does that mean? That means no snow. That means no shoveling of snow, and it also means no driving in the snow. Now, I remember many years back in the mid-90s, it snowed one time. It was like the entire city shut down, and it was crazy. The good news is, well, that rarely happens. You see what we have here, we have an average of about 42 degrees in January. That's an average low of 42. That's the coldest month in Mobile, so that should tell you about everything you need to know. Now, we rarely have to drip faucets or any type of preparation, and it rarely gets below 25. Now, on the other side of things, the average high in our area is about 90 degrees in the summer. So imagine this, 7 months out of the year, the average temperature is about 40 degrees and 80. Somewhere in between there, low of 40, high of 80, you should be good to go. It doesn't get much better than that unless you're in like San Francisco or something. The weather's beautiful, but the housing costs are like 4 times what it is in Mobile, so I could not even imagine what that would be like. Now, another pro is that Mobile is very diverse. I've had clients call me before and they said, look, we want to live in a diverse area, and I told them, I said, we got that covered. Honestly, that was pretty easy to do, and the reason why, it has a lot to do with Southern hospitality and just overall acceptance of everyone. So, I get calls from people of different ethnicities, and they want to know, will I be accepted there? Are people going to accept me? Am I going to be able to call this place home? And my answer to that would be yes. Those are the kind of answers that I'm getting when I talk with other folks. So definitely check that out. But think about how that impacts our food. More on that later. Now, another pro in Mobile is that we are close to the beach. We're about 45 minutes from Dauphin Island, which is super close. And then we're about an hour and 15 minutes to Gulf Shores, and then a little bit further to Orange Beach. So also keep in mind though, the locals know it's not Gulf Shores, it's Gulf Shores. Keep that in mind. The other thing is, we live on the bay, so there aren't beaches that are like really on the bay, or at least not many. You're gonna have to go down to the Gulf of Mexico where you're gonna see the real beaches, the waves, the white sand, all that stuff, what you think of when you think of the beach and the ocean. Now, another pro is low cost of living, very low cost of living. It's about 16% lower than the national average, and the price of homes in Mobile is about 40% lower than the average. So that's about a $250,000 price tag, and as you can see, these houses, they're nice. They're like 3-4 bedroom houses, at least 2 bathrooms, between 1,500 and 2,000 square feet. It's in a traditional neighborhood, it's close to everything, convenient. So that's kind of what you can expect. And the annual property tax would be probably in about the $1,200 range. So it depends on a lot of factors, but also with homeowners insurance, what I've found is you're looking about between $1,800 and $2,500 a year, and that also includes hurricane coverage. There are always different circumstances that are going to affect that, but it's very reasonable. Now, does that mean the average income is low? I would say no. Maybe you're reading that it's a little bit low, but with so many people moving here because of the job availability, that just means that the average income is beginning to rise. And the reason why is we've got a lot of industry moving in. We've got the construction of the new $2.7 billion bridge. We've got manufacturing like Austal and Airbus. We've got the Alabama port. And we've got the 5 different major hospitals. I actually made a video on that recently. It's all about healthcare. Check that out. But also we've got the University of South Alabama. That's a major employer. So there are a lot of opportunities. I don't think you're going to have a problem getting a job. Now, another pro has got to be the amazing seafood. Need I say more? The seafood is amazing. Now, in my previous career, I used to play in a band called Big Daddy Weave, traveled all over the world, 49 states. I've pretty much seen everything. And I've had a lot of seafood, and I can tell you, unless you go to like Red Lobster or something, the seafood in this area, it's always fresh and it's always amazing. So if you plan on making a trip here, just know you definitely have to stop by and try some local seafood. You'll love it. Now, if you're on the Bayway, you're going to have the original Oyster House. You've got Felix's. It's a little more upscale. You've got R&R, where they're known for great crawfish. You've got the Bluegill, amazing live music. You've got the Grand Mariner, my favorite crab claws. You've got the Lighthouse in Irvington. Craver's, some of the best gumbo around. And you've got Winsel's. That's the home of the raw oyster eating contest, which I think is pretty much disgusting, but it's a popular thing here. So that's it. Those are just a few of the seafood restaurants that come to mind, and there are many more. Now, the last pro we're going to talk about has got to be Southern hospitality. Yes, it is a real thing. Now, some will say it's fake or an act, but just ask anyone from the West Coast or the East Coast, and they will tell you that people in the South are more friendly and they smile a lot. It is very true Southern hospitality. Now, we got to talk about the cons. It is very hot in the summer. Now, being hot is not always a bad thing, but the heat usually starts in May and continues all the way through September. I've got a friend who lives in the Northwest. He doesn't even have an air conditioning unit in his house. Well, I got to tell you, that is definitely not an option here. You must have central heating and air, as well as air conditioning in your car, because if you don't, you will be absolutely miserable. Now, I've joked and said, walking outside, I feel like I've got an electric blanket on. It's like it's so hot. But that's often true because it's very humid. Now, if you talk to a lot of ladies, they might say, I've got a bad hair month. It's not just a bad hair day. So on a side note though, if you are considering getting into the HVAC industry, you will always have job security. Now, another con is the high sales tax. So if you live in the city of Mobile, you're looking at 10%. That goes for food, that goes for merchandise, basically 10% on everything. Now, in a way, this could be a response to our low property tax, but the difference is property tax is not optional, whereas sales tax is based on discretionary purchases. So if you don't have a lot of monthly expenses, well, then you'll save even more money. And if you live in areas like Grand Bay or Wilmer, just outside of Mobile, that's actually 7.5%. So you can save a little more. Now, another con, it's got to be there's no professional sports here. This is only a con, though, if you love sports. If you don't, well, then it's no big deal. I've been to a few Saints games in New Orleans. I've driven to Atlanta for the Braves games. But considering the cost of tickets these days, that's enough for me. Now, we do have plenty of sports. We have opportunities like Little League. We've got public school, private school sports, and with the recent popularity of the University of South Alabama and their new 25,000 seat stadium. I know that's not huge compared to some places, but it's a big deal here. Well, you can go to the games and be a part of that organization that is absolutely on fire. It's a growing community, lots of support. You definitely have to check it out. Now, another con, well, it's the mosquitoes. And I know that probably has a lot to do with the type of blood you have, but I gotta tell you, mosquitoes love me. They ignore my wife. I don't know what the deal is, but if you're the outdoors type, then maybe it doesn't bother you very much. But depending on the weather, sometimes it's difficult if you go outside and you try to sit for a long period of time, and they're just gonna eat you up. So with that said, hey, just hang out on the inside, go check out the AC, go in the backyard, jump in the pool if you have one. And there are pools everywhere here. So just keep that in mind. It's usually only a problem if you're sitting outside for a long period of time. So the last con I'll have to say is that we're featured on The First 48. If you've ever seen that show on the A&E network. Being on TV is fun. I've been on TV several times. In fact, did you happen to catch my segment on national news about people moving from Florida to Lower Alabama because of the lower cost of living? Well, here's a 5-second clip, so check it out.
Alabama real estate agent Jeff Jones with Keller Williams Mobile joins us now.
I did my very best to shine a positive light on Mobile and all that it has to offer. But The First 48 is doing the opposite of that. So if you do any research at all, you'll see videos about crime in Mobile. I mean, that's just the truth. But here's the deal. I've lived here for almost 50 years and I've never had a problem personally. And it really just depends on where you are. It depends on who you're with and what you're doing. Now, obviously, there are exceptions to that, but that's a general rule. I try not to watch the news. I try to focus only the positive things that are going on in this world. And I have to tell you, there are a lot of positive things going on in Mobile, Alabama, Baldwin County, and Lower Alabama in general. So that's it, folks. I try to give you an updated 2023 version of the pros and cons of Mobile and areas of Baldwin County. There are a lot of pros and there's some cons, but I feel like the pros outweigh the cons. So don't forget, like and subscribe so you'll be notified the next time we drop a brand new video. And check out my podcast. Don't forget about that if you want the inside scoop. And download the City Guide for even more details on living life in Lower Alabama.